The expectations index fell below the threshold of 80, which usually signals a recession. That fell below that level for the first time since June of last year. In response to that, the dollar retreated against its major counterparts as Treasury yields fell as the economic data suggested a slowdown in economic growth. Home Depot reported fourth quarter results that came in above market estimates, and the company's guidance also expected weak earnings but higher sales. And home prices were up nearly 4% last year, according to the latest Case-Shiller National Index. That's up a bit from the previous month. New York reporting the highest annual gain with a 7.2% increase.
Full Swing Season 3 came out today. You gonna watch?
What the hell's that?
It's that golf Netflix thing.
Oh, I did see that one of the previews said that they had like some other footage of the Scheffler arrest and all that.
Oh, really?
And some of the interviews with like Tom Kim and Tom Kim was like, they're taking my best friend away in handcuffs.
I mean, I'll nickel and dime it. I'll watch it at some point. Like I doubt that I sit down and binge it. It'll take me a few weeks, but yeah, I'll watch it.
I have heard that the Netflix doc on the USA basketball team at the Olympics is very much worth
haven't
watching.
Started it yet.
No, but I've heard it's very good. I saw some of the excerpts of it, like Batum in the middle of the French game at halftime, just unloading on his teammates was really like, you like to see more of that. I think that was cool stuff.
I watched the starting 5 one. That was pretty good. So I'll watch it at some point too. Coming up next, Glenn Davis, Soccer Matters. So he'll be here talking all the matters as the Dynamo try to recover after losing the opening match in the Texas Derby to FC Dallas. I think 2-1 was the final, maybe 3-2. They lost by a goal. Cal's only demand on draft night, more meatloaf. That's a funny one. And then Joshua Seabrook, car wreck of the day, Lance's audio. The combine comp to the brisket is hilarious.
In your opinion, yeah. I didn't hear it, but yeah.
All right. What are you nominating for car wreck of the day?
Former Rockets assistant coach, now Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch had this to say about playing against the OKC Thunder. AJ?
Car wreck of the day, AJ.
Abigail said it was ready.
Abigail said it was ready?
Yeah, she nodded behind him.
Maybe she was nodding at something else.
and we've had it in the system.
Oh, it's in the system?
Yeah, I know Dell used it.
You didn't put it in the audio bin, though. It might be used the car wreck of the day.
Well, anyway, Chris Finch basically said that it's tough going up against OKC because you can't touch Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You can't touch him ever. And then they foul on every possession, and they foul, and it's really, really frustrating. The ironic thing is, you won the game, Chris. You won it. You won in overtime. Yeah, after the game, and you won the game, and you came back from 24 down in the fourth quarter to win the game. And then you said that.
It's interesting you said that after a win.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You beat him, and yet you're still complaining about him.
He was arguing. He got teed up the other day against the Rockets.
He likes to get some tees.
He gets teed up.
He gets feisty.
He likes to.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just his MO.
Yeah,
that's who he is. I'll stick to the NBA for my car wreck of the day. Joel Embiid's body. The body of one Joel Embiid. Why does AJ think that's so funny? He's cracking up over there.
I mean, I understand what you mean by it. Just how you said it.
His body's breaking down. It's kind of. I think Joel Embiid has a Branham body. Like, it's bad. It's broken down. It's beat up. It's no good no more. They're like talking about every single option. Was it his knee? Every single option is on the table for him. Surgery, rehab, rest, exile from basketball. Embiid's body's broke.
His attitude's broke too.
Yeah, it is.
Because of the fact that you could play healthy in the entire Olympics, and it meant all this to you, and you were feisty and all these things. And then suddenly, with some time off after that, getting ready for the preseason and the regular season, you now suddenly can't play even a quarter of the season, and your team sucks. Come on, man. And you got your max deal and your extension. Come on, man.
I do kind of root for Philadelphia now, though.
I am the exact opposite.
I like Quentin Grimes.
I hate Tad Brown.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going Daryl Morey route, but it's Tad.
Daryl and I always got along. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never met Tad, but
You're doing yourself a favor.
I've heard bad things.
Yes. Yeah, you're doing yourself a big favor.
I've heard bad things. All right, who's winning here? We got to dip out.
I'll give it to Finchie. You don't win the game and then bitch about that.
Yeah,
stuff.
That is weird.
Yeah. And by the way, you have Anthony Edwards. And by the way, if you look at the games this year, the fouls are pretty even.
I didn't realize, because I don't keep up with NBA other than the Rockets, and I was busy last night. But I saw that you had this in here.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that they that they won the game.
He looked ticked off.
That's
too.
funny.
They won the game and he looked ticked off.
I like Lance's audio though.
Okay, well,
all right, yeah.
Let
Break
AJ
the tie.
pick it.
Break the tie for us, AJ.
Oh wait, out of those two?
Yeah, between Chris Finch and then
I'd say
Lance
Chris Finch
Zierlein's
for sure.
Oh, you're
I gotta be
brown
neutral.
nosed it.
I gotta be neutral. Man.
He's posturing.
I gotta be neutral.
Right. Chris Finch
These new
wins.
producers are just on it. I love them.
Chris Finch wins the game and wins car wreck of the day. It's going to do it for us. Thanks to Age for all the hard work over the last 2 days. We'll be back tomorrow. Twitchers rejoice. He's Blank. I'm Branham. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Glenn Davis, Soccer Matters right now on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
All right, welcome in, everybody, on the heels of the Killer Bees. Truly, this is a week of excitement in the world of soccer in Houston, Texas, because we have the impending visit of Lionel Messi and Inter Miami coming on Sunday night. The most recognizable athlete on the planet? I believe so. He'll be here on Sunday at Shell Energy Stadium taking on the Houston Dynamo. Stream at ESPN975.com. And we also have the phone number at 713-780-3776. 713-780-3776. So just like when I call a soccer game, when a goal is scored, you lay out. Well, when they're testing the alarm system in your building, you also lay out. So check out the alarm system. I don't know if you can hear it. All right. That was a really weak attempt at humor. Okay, so I got Messi tickets tonight. We're going to give 2 pairs away. You have to be ready, and you got to be ready to go here tonight. We also have the former Houston Dynamo head coach, Dominic Kinnear. 20-year anniversary. I'm saying to myself, I'm not seeing enough about Dominic Kinnear. Let's get the legendary Dynamo coach on and get some thoughts from him. He's now an assistant at FC Cincinnati. Behind the glass tonight is Abigail Hong, and it is Daspit Law, who brings us the soccer talk on the radio each and every week. There were some results today. Brighton Hove Albion 2-1 over Bournemouth. Crystal Palace 4-1 over Aston Villa. There's a logjam at the top of the Premier League. And then Chelsea knocks off Southampton 4-0. So a big crushing win there for Chelsea today. So the logjam at the Premier League, to get into the Champions League places is pretty incredible. You got Liverpool, obviously, right now with 11-point lead over Arsenal in second, Nottingham Forest at 47. But then check this out. I believe Chelsea now jumps into fourth. And then you got Nottingham Forest on 47. You've got Nottingham Forest, Chelsea's top 4 now. Then you got Man City, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Aston Villa. All of them have 42 and 43 points. So it's quite the race. Liverpool seems to be the best team in Europe right now. Real Madrid may say something about that. Today, Barcelona and Atletico Madrid in a 4-4 draw in the Copa del Rey. So a reminder about Lionel Messi this week. Tonight, Messi and Inter Miami are going to be playing against Sporting Kansas City. This is the CONCACAF Champions League. This is a separate tournament to Major League Soccer play. It's on FS2 at 7 o'clock. So if you want to watch that, you're going to be hoping and praying he doesn't get hurt before he comes to Houston. I put it out on social media. Who is the most recognizable athlete in the world to you? And I know we got some people talking about people. I'm going to say let's make it current now because there were a lot of good entries and we'll read some of them. Who is the most recognizable athlete in the world right now? And of course, Messi's going to be in there. 713-780-3776. But if anybody's got any ideas from other sports as well, maybe it's Djokovic in tennis. He's pretty much a global superstar. So there you go. All right. Let me recall and remind you how many times Leo Messi has played in Houston, by the way. All of this with Argentina. So in 2015, he played in a friendly against Bolivia, 7-0 Argentina over Bolivia. Messi had 2 goals. Year later in the Copa America semifinals, you may have been there. I was there. Argentina knocked off the United States national team 4-0. What was important in that game was that Messi scored a remarkable free kick that made him the all-time leading goal scorer for Argentina. He was tied going into that game with Gabriel Batistuta, Batigol. 2024, 8 years later, comes back to Energy Stadium, Copa America quarterfinals. Argentina wins, advances. They beat Ecuador, but they beat them on penalties to get into the Copa America semis. Beat Ecuador 4-2 on penalties. That's when Emi Martinez made some of the critical saves in that one in the shootout, following a 1-1 draw in regulation time. Messi and Inter Miami this weekend, 2-2 draw against New York City FC. Even with 10 men, they controlled this game. That's how good they are with the ball. That's what the Dynamo calling card is a possession game. Now, if they're going to concede possession to Inter Miami and Messi, that means, I think, if they want to be successful, they have to have some sort of a transition game. And I don't know how good the Dynamo transition game is right now, because they do like to play that methodical style. But that is how you can hit Inter Miami, is when you finally get the ball off them, you can hit them on the counterattack. And that's how they conceded goals last year. So we'll see if the Dynamo, with a vertical game, maybe Jack McGlynn's the guy who can unleash the potential of somebody. I mean, from a pace standpoint, it's Aliou Ibrahim, maybe Sebastian Kowalczyk, but I don't think the Dynamo vertical game and their transition game is necessarily in their realm of calling card. And that, to me, is the best way to attack Inter Miami. And I think a lot of people say the same thing I am. 2-2 draw with New York City FC. He had both the assists. Remember the first leg of the CONCACAF Champions League against Sporting Kansas City. 3 degrees was the temperature. Everybody's saying, oh, he's not going to play. It's too cold. They're from Miami, yada, yada, yada. Well, what does he do? He plays. He's the GOAT. He scores a winning goal. He beats like 4 guys. And, he's one of the most competitive men on the planet. I don't think there's any question. Now, after the 2-2 draw this weekend, altercation with the referee from Messi, and then an assistant coach of New York City FC. He apparently, I don't know if he grabbed his neck, but he put his hands around the neck of this assistant coach who might have said something to him. I don't know what happened there, but it's Mehdi Bellucci, who played in Major League Soccer. Bellucci didn't do anything. Mascherano said, quote, I don't have too many things to say. It's difficult when you are on the pitch, da-da-da, and sometimes you think things are not going the right way because sometimes you can see mistakes from the referee, whatever. Yeah. Difficult to control emotions. Whatever. This happened after the game, and there were people today saying, oh, my God, he's going to get suspended. It's like, folks, he's not getting suspended. As long as he doesn't get hurt tonight, he'll be here in Houston, but he's not going to get suspended. And what I said earlier in the day was he'll get a slap on the wrist, and he'll get some sort of a fine or something, and that's it. He has been fined an undisclosed amount by Major League Soccer for violating the hands-to-face, head, neck of an opponent, even though this was an assistant coach. So whatever. But for those who are panicking, geez, let me walk you off the ledge. There's no way he's not going to be available in Houston unless he gets injured, because the Dynamo is an organization in a centralized league deserve to get their cake with Lionel Messi too. And there are still tickets available, and we will be giving out tickets tonight on this show. Okay, so we move on. It's exciting he's coming here. He's the current World Cup holder. He's done everything in the game. He's been here 3 times, as we mentioned. He was outstanding the other night in the 2-2 draw with New York City FC. Looked excellent in that game. One thing to keep in mind here is that Aviles, who scored and is one of the center backs, will not be available. So when they went down to 10 men, Sergio Busquets dropped off and kind of played as a center back. Fafa Pico went off earlier in that game, the Houston Dynamo player of the past, and he went off injured. He was replaced by Robert Taylor. So, the thing is can you get Inter Miami to defend in transition? And now they're going to be down a center back. It's an area of their team that hasn't been considered to be the strongest. But then again, the Dynamo transition game is, it's not the strongest either. So I think this is going to be a really interesting tactical sort of matchup. But that, Jordi Alba, Busquets, these guys, they're competitive. They're competitive. And they know all the eyes are on them, and they have to be competitive. And with 10 men, they took the game to New York City FC. That's certainly something that I felt that I saw in that game. All right. I move on to Christian Oliveira. He left LAFC 10 days ago. He went to Gremio for $4.5 million. This was according to Goals TV. Now, what Oliveira said was that his national team coach, Marcelo Bielsa, told him to leave Major League Soccer. And Oliveira then quoted Bielsa saying, Bielsa told me to leave because MLS is a league that makes players lazy. Take it for what it's worth. But that's what Bielsa said. So Oliveira is going back to Brazil, and he's going to play with Gremio. And by the way, Brazilian soccer is physical. It is challenging. And that's something to always definitely keep in mind. It was a weekend in Major League Soccer that, everybody was excited. It was the opening weekend. Of course, we got blessed with really poor weather here, but boy, I'll tell you, that was a hearty group of Dynamo fans that made their way out to the game. The Dynamo in this only concede 3 shots on goal. They make 2 huge mistakes, and that costs them the game. Andrew Tarbell had only 1 save. They had 56% of the possession. They had 11 shots, 3 on target. 27% of their shots on target. 12 teams in the league had 6 or more shots on target in their games. Inter Miami being one of them, even with 10 men. Short, medium passing in this game. The Dynamo linking up, no question. The balls over distance, they were about 50-50 in my mind. From what I saw, statistically, I think they said it was 54%. So I was close there. But I think you want to be in the 60s when it's hitting long balls. And this is going to be important against Inter Miami again, because if you have an opportunity and you recognize that you can hit them in transition and you get runners going in behind them, you have an opportunity to score goals against them. But the Dynamo have been used to playing a very controlled type of game. So I don't know if, they're going to work on transition in this game. They certainly got a player who can hit that ball. That's Jack McGlynn. Artur, I think, can hit it as well. But you got to get runners in behind him. And if you can get Inter Miami overcommitted and you recognize the moments to hit them on the counterattack, you could have real success. And then you're going to probably have to be pretty selective in the press. You're going to have to defend for longer periods of time. And I think a big, big key is what is the health of Franco Escobar and Eric Sviatchenko going to be? Are these 2 veterans who you need in a game like this, are they going to be back? That is a real big piece of everything leading up to this game on Sunday. I don't think there's any question. So they will have to slightly change or alter the tactics in this. And we'll see where Nico Ladero comes. Does he come off the bench again? Do they start with Aliou? But the way to score more goals is either changing or altering your tactics, getting a little more width, finding a transition game. Maybe it's through individuals, Jack McGlynn, Nico Ladero, or another DP down the road. With Ladero on the field, you got to get it to his feet around the box because he's the guy that can make plays in these small areas, but actually make plays that lead to goals and assists. There's a lot of really technical Dynamo guys high up the field. This guy, though, can make plays that leads to goals and assists. And then you heard Ben Olsen talking about spacing, box organization, getting numbers in the box, proper delivery, people hitting different spaces. But the real question, I think, for the coaching staff and Ben Olsen remains now, how does this become a better goal-scoring team? Because if you score a few more goals, you can be afforded the opportunity to make mistakes sometimes. And these were big mistakes in the opening game. They happened around the league. You don't crucify these guys. It's not the end of their careers. It is the first game of the year. And if you looked around MLS, the beauty, or I think Alexi Lalas calls it the romance of playing out of the back, which is kind of funny. But personally, keep playing out of the back. Opponents because it does make the game interesting, because it does lead to mistakes. And I'm not saying that on the standpoint of the Dynamo. We don't want them to make mistakes. But that is something that's not going to change. It's funny how trends in soccer, just like in other areas in life, they all follow each other, right? All of a sudden, we've got inverted wingers. All of a sudden, we're playing out of the back more. And that was aided by a rule change, obviously. Less contentious goal kicks. People smashing skulls, second balls, dueling. It is what it is. Coming in hot. This is a Peter Tosh song. And great Peter Tosh. I was a big Tosh fan. I saw him once at the Ritz in New York on East 11th Street. I had to wave my hand in front of my eyes through the whole show. There was so much medicinal herb being smoked because that came along with Peter Tosh. But boy, did he have a band. And he came out in this white, glittery kind of jumpsuit. But he was fantastic. Hey, he worked with the Stones, too. Cactus Music will be happy that I said that. Vinyl, CDs, get down there. It's Cactus Music. That's the place to go. Go down there, see Quinn and the staff, and they'll get you hooked up. I think I'm going to shoot a video there on Thursday promoting our Thursday night show. Just to get in among the records. Also, Nico's Greek and American Cafe. Quick little hit here, a World Cup hit. By the way, Nico Ladero played in 2 World Cups for Uruguay. He was on the team in 2010 that ended up in 4th place. Nico Ladero, now a member of the Houston Dynamo with Uruguay, played in 2 World Cups. Pretty phenomenal. He is now a Houston Dynamo, and we are hosting World Cup 2026. And this is going to be the biggest sporting moment in the history of Houston, Texas. That brought to you by Nico's Greek and American Cafe, lamb shank, souvlaki, gyro, you name it. Incredible soups. 3 locations, Woodlands, I-10 in the Beltway, and the original on Montrose.
You're listening to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5.
And on ESPN 92.5.
Brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Glenn Davis.
All right, welcome back to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. You know what, Abigail? I must have given you the wrong song. That was not Little Wing by Stevie Ray Vaughan. I felt like I was in a speakeasy there for a minute. It's okay, though. It makes great radio.
Right.
So does an alarm going off during our show, too. So apparently some of the listeners are saying, yeah, we heard the alarm. but we motor on. That's the beauty of radio. Quick word here for the presenting sponsor. By the way, when I say this, they help you get on the air. Okay. This show is dependent upon sponsors in order to have soccer on the air. And of course, the station that loves the game of soccer here at ESPN 97.5. So big shout out to John Daspit, the Daspit Law Firm, personal injury attorneys. They're going to work for you. Car, boat, motorcycle, you name it. Maybe you do construction. Maybe you're an 18-wheeler driver. Certainly wouldn't want that job. That's not easy. But if you are and you get in an accident, nobody likes it. Nobody wants to get in accidents, but you do get the best. It is the Daspit Law Firm, daspitlaw.com, 713. Call now. All right, 20th anniversary of the Houston Dynamo, 30th of the league. But if we remember and we go back to 2006, an amazing San Jose Earthquakes was gifted to the Houston Dynamo, became the Houston Dynamo, was gifted to the city of Houston. Things were a lot different then, but the man who was the architect of the back-to-back titles in 2006 and 7, he joins us now, currently assistant coach at FC Cincinnati. He is Dominic Kinnear. Dominic, thanks for coming on tonight.
Glenn, it's a pleasure talking to you. It's been too long, and I certainly miss you, my friend.
Yeah, it's a nice reunion. By the way, you heard what I was saying to Abigail, my producer, because I know you're a guy that loves the blues. So I was trying to come back with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Little Wing.
I did hear that. I appreciate it. That was a great one.
I was going to do a little Robert Cray for you, but I wanted to slip it up. But anyway, this is your segment, and I really want this to be about you and talking about the time you came here to Houston and everything. So just initially, 20 years, Dynamo, through your lens, Dom, just some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's we talked a little bit yesterday, Glenn, as you know, and it's an emotional conversation for a lot of people, especially myself. And I do speak to a guy from Les about it. And when we found out the team was moving to Houston from San Jose, and I'm a Bay Area guy, and it was really tough for me to leave. Go. But then looked at the team and how good of a team we had. And then, the question was asked by this gentleman, Sam Jones. He said, well, why did you end up going? And then I said, the reason, really the selfish reason was I couldn't see anybody else coaching that team at that particular time. I felt I was such a strong part of that group that I would be so, jealous and upset if somebody else coached them. So it really was the strength and the force of that group that brought me to Houston, and when we got there, it ended up it was a great 9 years, so had no idea about the city of Houston. I knew you from previous conversations and dealings in MLS. I knew nothing about Houston, but the times we had, especially the first couple years, and the other 2 MLS Cups and some championship games at home and away. I wouldn't trade any of that for anything. It was just such a wonderful time for myself and especially for my family.
You were a young coach at the time too, Dom. I mean, you had inherited the team. Frank Yallop, I think, if I'm correct, went on to coach Canada. You were his assistant. You and I used to chat on the field when we did HDNet broadcasts with Marcelo Balboa while you were warming the team up. You got the head coaching job. How difficult was that from being an assistant with all these guys to then being the head coach? Because that's a little tricky, right?
It was difficult, because Frank won 2 championships in 3 years in San Jose, so to follow him was definitely difficult. 2004, we barely edged into the playoffs. 2005 was a little bit more of my team. We made a couple of really good trades between the 2004-2005 season. That was, we got Brad Davis into the team. Ricardo Clark was brought into the team at that time too. It was to go from being an assistant coach to being a head coach is completely night and day, and it consumes your whole life. It certainly is difficult. After the first year, I did inherit a winning team. We fell off the pace a little bit, but that 2005, we won the Supporter Shield. And that for me was, gave me the confidence to know I could walk into a locker room and not only survive, but drive a team forward. So the first year was definitely a learning curve. And 2005 for me was, because the team was successful and the moves we made paid off. It really gave me the confidence to feel that I could be a good head coach in this league.
Was it hard for some players to accept now you being a head coach? Because, you do have to change, right? I mean, you are the leader.
Yeah, it's difficult. The relationships change for sure because, you know, as an assistant coach, you're more of a helper. You're an assistant to the head coach, but on the other side of it, you form some pretty good relationships with the players. It's a bit more of a friendlier position. And then when you become a head coach, obviously you're the one making the decisions on who's playing, who's not playing, and it becomes a lot more difficult. But I think the one thing I learned from Frank that I carried with me was as long as you were honest with the players, they may not have respected so they may not have liked the message, but at least they respected it because they knew it came from a sincere place. And that for me was one of the most, beautiful things I learned from Frank Gallup was just the amount of sincerity and empathy he had for the players on a daily basis. When I carried that forward, even though the relationship did change, I think that one thing I carried, and it did make the situation a little bit easier.
Boy, and when you talk about Frank and guys like yourself, you are salt of the earth guys, and Frank Gallup is certainly that as well. And I know you're great friends with him. Talking to Dominic Kinnear, he's now the assistant coach at FC Cincinnati, but he was the architect of the 2 back-to-back championships. Houston comes to the city in 2006. Dom, you guys are wondering where you are. Go on to win 2 titles. This city was ripe for the return of professional soccer, certainly through my lens. I knew that. And it was just a really unique thing at Robertson. It was very intimate. You guys all were still, I think, in a different era of the game in this country where you wanted to get out in the community and work for the fans. And did you feel still then you were still kind of growing soccer as well?
Oh, 100%. The good thing about going from San Jose to Houston was we went from Spartan Stadium, which you know very well,
Yep,
to Robertson Stadium. So it was a little bit similar, a small football field, very intimate. Still growing the game, and I think back of some of the players. Craig Weibel was doing his Ball, the beautiful campaign.
yep.
Brian Ching doing his, building houses in the community, and there was others. And I know a lot of players worked with you on your cancer program. So I think these guys, they knew that soccer wasn't nearly there yet, and I think they did have an appreciation for where it was, also where it was going, and knowing the importance it had to, reach out to the community. And, days are different now. I know the game has changed a lot more. But I think when you look back on it, it was a special team on the field. But I think even more important was what a great team and wives they had off the field to really kind of, blend into the city and become a part of the Houston fabric, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I could ask people through the organization and everybody'd say yes, and they'd show up, and it was phenomenal. And it was also a great way of people getting I think that team had so much personal connection with the community, and that led to the great relationship. Biggest game at Robertson that you remember in your mind as far as crowd intensity and all of that? I'm sure it's probably a playoff game.
Yeah, God, there were so many, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the first game stands out because, what a way to introduce ourselves in the city of Houston. Brian King with his 4 goals and just the great play of, Brad Davis, Brian Mullen, Eddie Robinson, Craig Weibel, the list goes on, Blake Barrett, a great introduction. My personal favorite was the Colorado playoff game that took us to the final. And even though we went down 1-0, and I mentioned this the other day, and it's still to this day my favorite Dynamo goal was Brian Mullen's the goal in the final. Third goal, a beautiful play by Brad Davis to release Alejandro Moreno. Alejandro Moreno with the outside of the right foot across the back post, and Brian Mullen, one of my favorite Dynamo players ever, comes in with a sliding, smashing volley into the lower corner.
Yes.
And it just, the place exploded. I don't know how many people were there that night, but it seemed like it was about 100,000. So that would be my best Dynamo goal. And then my second in the new stadium was Kofi Sarkodie's goal in the playoffs against DC United. It was the third goal in that game, I think. And it was the loudest I had ever heard the new stadium become. And just talking about those right now, it puts chills up and down my spine. Those are just wonderful moments and things that I will never, ever forget.
When you mentioned Mullen sliding at the back post, that play just replayed in my mind. And then I think, remind me if I'm right or wrong here, but was it Kofi Sarkodie cutting in on his left foot?
No, it was a half cleared corner, and the ball broke to Luis Camargo.
Okay.
And Luis Camargo kind of drilled by a guy and found Kofi, and Kofi took a touch and hit on like a half volley low into the corner. And it was we got a little bit lucky that game because I think Andrew Hainault could have got a red card in the first half. but he didn't. And luckily we went on. We scored off a free kick. Andrew Hale scored. We scored. Roy Bruin scored a later goal. And then Kofi's third goal in that game was it was a great goal, but the crowd reaction for me was just absolutely stunning. One of those breathtaking moments when you're sitting on the bench, you kind of realize you're not in the game anymore. You're part of something special. It was amazing.
He's Dominic Kinnear, led the Dynamo to 2 titles in 2006 and 7, currently with Cincinnati in Major League Soccer as an assistant coach. So Dom, let me ask you, because I'm really interested in this. You've been a head coach for such a long time. Now you go back to being an assistant. Was that an adjustment? Because, you're going full circle here.
Yeah, it was. When I got let go from San Jose in the middle of 2017, I was only out of a job for about a month, and I went and became an assistant coach with Ziggy Schmidt in LA for a year and a half. And he was one of the few guys that I would have definitely been an assistant coach to. I've known Ziggy since I was a teenager. I just had a ton of respect for him. Yes. Then it became almost like, hey, staying involved, hoping to get another look as a head coach, interviewed for probably more jobs than I can remember, didn't get any. And then it kind of came to the point where I was out of work in 2021, and I wanted to get back into the game, so and I was still interviewing for some head coaching jobs and didn't get a chance. And then, I called Chris Albright and just asked him if Pat Noonan would want an assistant coach, maybe with a little bit of experience. And that conversation took a positive turn, and it landed me in Cincinnati. And I will say, being out of a job in 2021, but I was keeping my eye on MLS a little bit, probably too closely. I fell in love with coaching again. And Pat, for me, is a great coach. He's very motivated, very driven, very organized, very knowledgeable. And I really enjoy working with him. Assistant coaching, the pressure and the stress is a heck of a lot different. And I enjoy it. I've worked with some great players over the years here. We've had some great success. The infrastructure and the ownership involvement with FC Cincinnati is something I haven't seen up close, except for, Philip Anschutz. In this league, it's a great soccer market. I mean, it's an unbelievable home atmosphere. And I feel very lucky to be working with Pat and Chris. It's been a great ride so far.
Yeah, it looks amazing on TV the times that I've seen it. Let me go back to not getting rehired, because you're a guy with incredible credentials. And if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to. But what do you think it was? Why don't you? I mean, is it just, do we term limit out and our shelf life is over? I mean, what? I mean, in my case, that's true, but I don't know about you. You won 2 titles. What is it?
I honestly, I just think sometimes your face doesn't fit. I think maybe I had the reputation of being old school and maybe a little bit outdated, which is fine. If I was a finalist for a couple of jobs, and for some organizations, I would call and wouldn't even get an interview, saying that they didn't want to go down that road, which I didn't know what that road was, because I tried to base all my coaching and whatever else on winning. But for a little while, and I'll be honest with you, because I've known you for a long time, it ate me up inside, because I would see people get jobs that I didn't think that were, as good a coach as I was. But I wasn't the one making the decisions. And I think when it came to when I got the assistant coach's job here in Cincinnati, I let it go. It's almost like you can only control what you can control. And even though I've talked to a couple of teams since I've been here in Cincinnati and it didn't happen, I'm okay with it, and I understand the game moves on, it becomes more modern, there's more tactics, the language changes, the different training methods, and it's totally, and I'm learning as I'm sitting here as an assistant coach, which is one of the best things about it. Is even at 57 years old, I'm still learning a lot of things, which I think if I ever given a chance again, it would make me a better coach. So, but I let go a little bit of the frustration and the bitterness. And I just kind of sit back and really enjoy what I'm doing now.
Well, I'm sure that's the competitor in you. And sometimes I have to, with the new language, whip out the Webster's. I mean, not Webster's, Chat GPT. Sorry, Chat GPT to get the definition of some of these words. Dom, this was awesome. Really nice to catch up with you. Wonderful to hear your voice, your history, your legacy. You're iconic here in Houston. That'll never change. And thank you very much for coming on. And I'd love to do this again sometime with you, because I think there's a lot more we could talk about.
It's been the highlight of my day talking to you, Glenn, and I'm available for you anytime you want.
Man, you must have had a boring day, Dom. Thanks for coming on tonight. I loved it.
Thanks, Glenn. My pleasure.
All right. Dominic Kinnear, FC Cincinnati. By the way, they got a 1-0 win in their first game. They've got a striker Dom was telling me about off air, Kevin Denke, who is really, really dangerous. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to do a little hit with Jack McGlynn. I spoke to him today here about Inter Miami, Leo Messi. Right now, I do want to remind you, though, Hugh O'Connor's Pub, I-10 in the Marquee Entertainment Center, Liverpool supporters group out there. Great place to watch games. Get out there. It is Hugh O'Connor's Pub, and they got a location in West University, too, on Dinkins. We got some exciting news. I can't let it out of the bag yet, but we are definitely going to get that new news out, hopefully in the next week or two. All right, here we go. Caller number 4, 713-780-3776. Caller number 4. You get a pair of tickets to see the Houston Dynamo take on Inter Miami and Lionel Messi on Sunday.
Your home for sports is ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
The race is on at Sam Houston Race Park. Live thoroughbred racing every weekend, and Dollar Night is March 1st. Camel and Ostrich Racing is March 7th and 8th. Live music every weekend, plus the best Sunday brunch around. Sam Houston Race Park. Visit shrp.com for details.
What is GMTVCC? That's a mouthful. The translation for GMTVCC.com is Give Me the Bin Classic and Collector Cars. It's a brand new buying division of Give Me the Bin, but it's for classic and collector cars. Experienced pro buyers will appraise an offer on your 1970 Hemi Cuda or 1988 Fox Body Mustang or your granddad's old 1985 square body Chevy truck. GMTVCC.com is where you go to get real money for classic and collector cars to get paid now. That's GMTVCC.com, brought to you by Give Me the Bin.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Call today for your complimentary free consultation. 800-403-8539. 800-403-8539. 800-403-8539. That's 800-403-8539.
Houston is Soccer City, USA, and World Cup 2026 is coming our way. Join me, Glenn Davis, every Tuesday and Wednesday, 6 Central Time for Soccer Matters, ESPN 97.5, presented by the Daspit Law Firm.
You're listening to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5.
And on ESPN 92.5.
Brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Glenn Davis.
All right, welcome back. I will just tell you, the phone lines blew up like there was no tomorrow for these Lionel Messi, Inter Miami, Houston Dynamo tickets. I'm going to let you know we're going to give one more pair away tonight. 713-780-3776 is the number to call in tonight. And keep that handy for tickets because I'll give another pair out before this show is over tonight. Okay. We want to roll. I had a little exchange today with Jack McGlynn, the young, talented Houston Dynamo midfielder. They acquired him for $2.1 million. I think he could be a key to the game in transition against Inter Miami with some balls over distance, something to keep an eye on with Inter Miami attacking and likely going to get a lot of the ball against the Dynamo. So here's the exchange with Jack McGlynn. This happened earlier today. And, of course, he was the pickup from the Houston Dynamo for $2.1 million. And, of course, hit the post in that game as well. Yeah, so McGlynn is going to be a key in this game. Do we have that?
Time in his.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
Pulling
Jack
strings.
McGlynn.
And I think that responsibility for him is a little bit new, but he's not going to be fazed by it. You know, I've only known him a little bit. But
Okay,
I know a
this
lot
is
of people.
Jack
I know
McGlynn.
where
This
he's
is
from.
Ben Olsen talking about Jack
I know a lot of
McGlynn.
people that know him and his character, and I think he's excited about this opportunity to be on the ball a lot and really make the game for us. So looking forward to helping him grow and to get to where he wants to be, and whether that's, you know, with the national team or is that in Europe, you know, those are all goals for a lot of young players, and being a part of, you know, helping him grow is we're going to enjoy that process.
So that was Ben Olsen talking about Jack McGlynn. And here, you know what? We're going to save the McGlynn stuff for tomorrow. I'll tell you what, Abigail, let's save that for tomorrow. I want to go to the synopsis of the Dynamo victory. And here's a little piece we put together. It's about a minute long. It's got the goal calls. And here's what it kind of sounded like on the local call on Apple TV. 2025 Major League Soccer season is underway for the Houston Dynamo and FC Dallas. McGlynn. Big switch of play, Dorsey. Big part of the Dynamo attack and bringing them width on the right side. Back to Dorsey. Dorsey flips it in, the header! It's 1-0 Houston Dynamo. They follow it up. They open their account. It is Amin Bassi, the Moroccan magician, who fires the arrow home. It's McGlynn off the post. Jack McGlynn with heavy metal. To the far post it goes. Still not over this play. From the Nittany Lions of Penn State. That's a bad giveaway. And it's 1-1. Ethan Bartlow coughed it up. Ladero whips it to the feet of McGlynn. McGlynn turns away and it looked like a free kick. He had to have gotten tugged. Watch out. It's one-on-one. Torbell's off his line. There's an empty net. Oh, no. And it's hit. This one may get looked at. Anderson Julio has put FC Dallas up. We have hit the 4-minute mark, and that's it. FC Dallas and Eric Quill have come into Shell Energy Stadium tonight here, have scored 2 second-half goals on his MLS debut as a head coach. Gets a huge 3 points here, and FC Dallas will get a 2-1 victory over the Houston Dynamo to the delight of their fans here. So that's how it sounded on the local call, and if you want to hear the local call, and I believe we're going to be doing that obviously on Sunday when Lionel Messi comes here. So super excited about that. You should be excited. Well, you know why? Because I'm going to give another pair of tickets out right now. Caller number 3, 713-780-3776. Caller number 3 at 713-780-3776 right now. You get a pair of tickets to the Houston Dynamo Inter Miami match. So light up those boards. And of course, it's going to be big on Sunday. By the way, it also includes Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, Javier Mascherano is now the head coach of Inter Miami, who, of course, played with Lionel Messi. He's only 40 years of age. So they're coming in with a lot of big guns. I reminded you that they are 7 o'clock tonight playing Sporting Kansas City. So Messi's going to be on his 4th game in 11 or 12 days. And if there was ever a guy that was economical with this movement, it's Lionel Messi. I would also say, check out Twitter at Glenn Davis Sock. I put up a video of a short corner that they took. It's pretty remarkable. And it's something the Dynamo are going to have their antennas up. And I mean, they are going to have to, their level of concentration has to be off the charts against this team because of the quality of some of those players we just mentioned that are out there. But one of the interesting things is that dead ball situations, Messi, this game against New York City FC, takes a short one. He's now off the corner, and a guy's marking him, and he whips the ball to the top of the box to the feet of one of his teammates. As he does that, the guy who's marking him now is watching the ball go towards the top of the box. forgets about Messi, who's now on his blind side, and Messi explodes and makes a run into a gap of space where the ball's threaded to him. He then squares it back. He takes a little contact from outside of him, and they score a goal. But the set pieces, the ingenuity, the creativity, these are things that are really, really going to have to be watched by the Houston Dynamo in this matchup against LAFC. All right. Since this was a big opening MLS weekend, I'm going to whip through some results. LAFC 1-0 over Minnesota. New signing Jeremy Abobasi getting one in the 78th there. It's a debut for him. It's a goal for him. He comes from San Jose to LAFC. Atlanta 3-2 over Montreal. Their new big signing, Latte Lath, gets 2 in that game. It's a new look Atlanta United. Miggy Almiron had an assist. He comes back, 60,000 plus people. Cincinnati, Kevin Denke, we mentioned before. Big, bustling, powerful forward. He gets the lone goal, 1-0 victory over New York Red Bulls. Columbus got a 4-2 victory over Chicago. Greg Berhalter debut in Chicago, loses to his former team, Columbus. Diego Rossi gets a pair for Columbus. Gutierrez, 2 for Chicago. But it's Columbus 4-2 over Chicago. They're still one of the better teams in the league, no question. DC United 2-2 with Toronto. Biggest secret in DC is Christian Benteke. He had a goal in that game. Bernadeschi for Toronto. Inter Miami 2-2 with New York City FC. We talked about that. Orlando lost 4-2 to Philly. Philly rips off 4 goals. By the way, there's a couple teams in MLS that came into the weekend with 4-goal games. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Chicago, Orlando, Portland. Not Chicago. Sorry. It was Columbus, Orlando, Portland, and Real Salt Lake, who all started their first game of the year with 4 goals. So that's pretty exciting for those teams to break out of the blocks. We had 2 0-0 games, Nashville, New England, St. Louis, Colorado, Boersville, San Jose 4-0 over Real Salt Lake, 4 different goal scorers. Bruce Arena gets the win over RSL and his former international player, Pablo Mastroeni. Seattle 2-2 with Charlotte. Jordan Morris, everybody, Jordan Morris this, Jordan Morris that. Guy still scores every year. We may not know how to define him as a player, but he got 2 for Seattle, 2-2 with Charlotte. Vancouver 4-1 over Portland. Portland had an early ejection in that one. 4 different goal scorers. Ryan Gauld got one of those. Pedro Vite scored a spectacular goal in that game. And then San Diego, the expansion team, 2-0 over the LA Galaxy. They make history. No, Chucky Lozano didn't score. He had an assist, but there was a mistake at the back in this one, much like in the Dynamo game. Anders Dreyer, who nobody probably knows. Well, you know him now. He's a Danish guy. He had 2 goals for them. Tim Ream, big quote, said this about Mauricio Pochettino, the new U.S. manager. He said, Pochettino just brings an intensity and focus in everything that he does. He's going to evolve us. He'll improve us in ways we want to play, in our transitions, in our movements, in our rotations, trying to confuse opposition with different setups. And that was Tim Ream, the veteran, on Mauricio Pochettino, who quite frankly could make it to another World Cup, Tim Ream. Center back positions, one there's some thoughts around those areas of the team. UEFA Champions League, Bruges and Aston Villa, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. Incredible that they get matched up. PSV and Arsenal. By the way, if you're Real Madrid, that's not the game you want. You don't want Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. And I'm calling it here now. Atletico Madrid upsets Real Madrid. Arsenal, PSV, Dortmund and Lille, Feyenoord of the Netherlands against Inter Milan of Italy. And then here's another one, number 1 and 2 in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich against Leverkusen. These rivalry games take on a little different level of presence when it's then contested in a UEFA Champions League round of 16. Barcelona, Benfica. Barcelona scores goals. They also give them up. Hansi Flick. And then PSG and Liverpool. So these are what's going to happen in the UEFA Champions League. Some great matchups there. Then you got the Europa League, Real Sociedad, Manchester United. By the way, if you don't watch the Europa League, you miss some really good stuff because you then get to see some teams you don't normally watch. So if you're simply taking the cherry off the cake, watching the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas and the Bayern Munichs and the Liverpools, you miss out on some stuff. There's some great games and there's some players you learn about that you then find out ultimately get bought and sold because of performance and end up on some of these bigger teams. But you knew about them earlier. Fenerbahce of Turkey against Rangers. We're going to get the president of Fenerbahce on this show, Ali Koch, who I know in the future. So Fenerbahce and Rangers, Victoria Plens against Lazio, Ajax, Eintracht Frankfurt, Steaua Bucharest, a.k.a. FCSB against Leon. Hazard Alkmaar against Tottenham, Bodo Glimt against Olympiacos of Greece, Roma, and Athletic Club. Of course, Roma is owned by the Friedkin Group, Dan Friedkin here in Houston. So there you go. Most identifiable athlete in the world. He's going to be here in Houston, Texas. We got about a minute left in the show here tonight. Big thank you to everybody tuning in. By the way, Cristiano Ronaldo's in that discussion because of his social media presence as well. He's a little out of sight, out of mind in Saudi Arabia. Neymar still, despite not really playing a lot, he still remains big. Mo Salah, I think, in the world of soccer. Kylian Mbappe, Vinny Jr., I think they all fit in. In other sports, when I was looking this up today, I saw a golfer named John Rahm, who I don't know because I'm not a golf guy, even though I appreciate the sport. Guy made $218 million last year. Never heard of him. Long term, it's Tiger Woods, Jack Nicholson in golf. I think a new tennis player is Carlos Alcaraz. Simone Biles, maybe. Patrick Mahomes. There you go. There's a few. Big shout out to the Clemson baseball team. In between innings, these guys went into the crowd, thanked a bunch of veterans. Pretty cool move. That's something that gets initiated by the coach of that team at Clemson. I don't know his name. I should know it. Clemson baseball coach. That's going to do it tonight here for Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. Big thank you to Abigail Hong behind the glass. You can get the podcast of this show at both Spotify, also on Apple Podcasts. And, of course, don't forget, we go again this Thursday. More Messi tickets to give out. Congratulations to those who got the win tonight here, calling in on those tickets. We'll continue the discussion. Joining me on the show will be Nico Ladero, and we're going to talk about the World Cup and the Dynamo and many things with Nico Ladero, who has represented Uruguay in 2 World Cups. That does it tonight for Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. I'm Glenn Davis. Remember, Soccer Matters.